Good afternoon, everybody. We'll begin, as we should, with a late acknowledgement by Ms. Nina Gross.
Welcome. We are located on the unceded land of Native tribes, including the Pecumtuck, who were driven from the land. This knowledge begs us to ask ourselves, how can we as a community and as a nation honor the legacy of those that came before us? What can be done to rectify past wrongs? How can we establish new norms that ensure that we do not let greed be our compass? What does living in harmony look like? And how can we work toward making that vision a reality? The Nolumbika Project is a local organization of Native and non-Native people that we partner with. It is a good place to begin the journey of learning more. We encourage you to check out their educational offerings and community events, and a longer land acknowledgement right behind the desk where you walked in.
I'd like to ground us today by helping us with a popular African phrase, Inyebe Tisofa. Can you guys say Inyebe Tisofa? No, you should never repeat something in another language that you don't know what it means. The phrase, Inyebe Tisofa, N-Y-E-B-E, Inyebe, right? Inyebe Tisofa means there's no room for hatred. And that's something worth saying, something worth repeating, even if it's in another language. So, Inyebe Tisofa! Inyebe Tisofa! Very, very nice. Now, often when African peoples begin something, they have an invocation. And they invoke the drum. This is called a cajon. Say cajon! Cajon! This cajon, it comes from the Spanish word caja, which is box, a big box drum. It comes from Cuba. Inyebe Tisofa. Inyebe Tisofa. Inyebe Tisofa. Inyebe Tisofa. 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 There's no room for hatred. No room for hatred. No room for hatred. No room for hatred. Inyebe Tisofa. Inyebe Tisofa. Inyebe Tisofa.
Giants of the civil
you feel loved. You feel seen.
Yes.
That's how we like you to feel. Welcome to the Love Center. For our, well, which one is it? The fourth, fifth, sixth? I'm not sure which one this is of our public reading of Frederick Douglass's speech. What year is this? Fourth? Fifth? No, I'm saying that we've done it with Marlon. Second time, yeah. That's what I meant. No. Okay, so, and thank you, of course, goes to the Mass Council of Humanities. Please give it up for Mass Humanities. Now, when we talk about why we look back, before we begin reading the words of Frederick Douglass, we should ask a simple question. Why return to the past at all? We gather not out of nostalgia, not to admire history from a safe distance. We look back because the past is unfinished conversation. Of course, many African traditions, there's the principle called Sankofa, a word and a symbol from the Akan people from West Africa. Sankofa teaches us this: go back and fetch what is needed. It reminds us that progress does not come from forgetting, it comes from remembering wisely. We look back so that courage is not lost, so warnings are not ignored, so victories hard won are not quietly undone. Tonight, or today rather, we're not simply reading history, we are retrieving something. And we're retrieving it to help our young people pick up the baton and carry it forward. So I'm always impressed when I hear about or find out about young people doing wonderful things in our community. And today we have with us a young man, well, I'll read a bit of his bio here. Nate Woodard is a Greenfield High School senior. He is co-chair of the Greenfield Human Rights Commission and the recipient of a Martin Luther King Jr. Bright Lights Award from the Greenfield Community College and a Peacemaker Award from the Trap Rock Center for Peace and Justice and the Interfaith Council of Franklin County. He is the president and founder of the Students of Color Coalition at his school. He's a youth leader who recently staged a walkout to protest ICE and the violence they've been doing to our citizens. 155 students walked out to symbolize their anger and their confusion of what's happening and their dissent. And I was very proud to hear that this young man did that. Please give it up for the young man, Nate Woodard.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little short. I want to thank everybody for being here, obviously. It means a lot to me and our community. A little bit of how I kind of got to this city is unique to everybody, because I don't come from a wealthy family. I come from family who, fights for everyday use. I don't know if you guys read the poem Everyday Use by Alice Walker. It's a really good poem and story. My family's from Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut specifically. Grew up right in the hood of the ghetto. And I was raised in Springfield and born in Springfield. Tragically, my dad had a stroke. I was homeless for 2 years. I lived on the streets in a tent with a blanket as a newspaper. And then 2 years later, I found Greenfield. And I've been here for 10 years. And I really like it here. But I'm going to go, and I just want to give you guys a contact of how I feel. And somebody that I remember today is my grandmother, Garnell Woodard, who passed away in 2024. She's here today. I can feel her here today, and it's great. A woman who lived history, who was picking crops on the same picking cotton on the same field that Emmett Till picked cotton on. Woman is extraordinary, and I wish she was here looking at this today. Anyway, I just want to say good afternoon, everybody. Today I want to talk about something unstoppable, young power, and how it connects to one of the greatest voices of history, of freedom in history. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery in 1818. He was denied freedom, education, and basic human rights. But even as a young boy, he had something powerful, the benefit that his mind belonged to him. While others tried to keep him down in the darkness, he secretly taught himself to read and to write. And once he learned to read, he said later that knowledgeable makes a man unfit to be a slave. This is young power. Young power is not about age. It's about courage. It's about refusing to accept the injustice just because it's existed for too long. Douglass was a young, and when he decided when slavery was wrong. He was young when he risked his life to escape. And he was still young when he began speaking out against slavery, standing in front of crowds who doubted him, threatened him, and tried to silence him. But he spoke anyway. He understood something important. Our voices does not permit to matter. Many people think power belongs to the wealthy, the famous, and to the older generation. But history tells a different story. Change often begins with the young, with people who see the world not only as it is, but as it should be. Frederick Douglass did not wait for the right time. He did not wait to feel ready. He used his voice while he was still growing, still learning, and still becoming. And because of that, he became one of the most influential abolitionists in our American history. He advised presidents and fought for freedom, not for just the Black Americans, but for women and for all people. Young power is about education. It's about speaking the truth. It's about resilience when others try to push you down. Douglass once said, "If there is no struggle, there is no passion." That message still speaks to us today. Every generation faces its own struggle. Injustice, inequality, diversity, and fear. But every generation also has its Frederick Douglass. Young people willing to question, to challenge, and to lead. The question is not whether young people are powerful. The question is, will you use your power? Your idea matters. Your voices matter. Your courage matters. You do not have to wait to grow older to make a difference. Frederick Douglass proved that. We prove it as a community. So stand tall, learn boldly, speak clearly, and never underestimate the power of being young. Our community needs young leaders. Our community needs young people in power. Going back to the wealthy. It's not about how much money you have. It's not about how much land you have. It's about community. Community within each other. Community with all of us. And that's why I thank you all for being here. I thank you for listening to my words. And I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you.
Rochester, 1849. In 1849, two young British sisters arrived in Rochester, New York. Their names were Julia and Eliza Griffiths. They came to stay with the Douglass family, and what they encountered in Rochester changed them. Douglass was no longer enslaved, but slavery still defined the nation around him. Freedom existed beside brutality. Hope lived beside law. The sisters did not remain observers for long. They became organizers. Neighbors gathered. Conversations turned into action, and soon, ordinary women, mothers, workers, church members formed what became the Rochester Ladies' Anti-Slavery Sewing Society. They stitched clothing for formerly enslaved people. They raised funds. They organized meetings. Needle and thread became political instruments. Resistance sometimes looks like marching. Sometimes it looks like speaking. And sometimes it looks like sewing late into the night so freedom could travel farther. Nina Gross is a poet, a playwright, a violist. Sorry. Her play, Inheritance, was featured in Lava's On the Boards Festival of New Plays in 2023 and 2024. She is a founding member of Lava's Playwright Circle and serves on the board of directors at Lava. And she is really fun to be around. Very smart, wonderful person with an excellent singing voice. Please give it up for Nina Gross.
While the Republic celebrates 250 years of this great experiment, and 174 years after Frederick Douglass delivered the speech which you're going to hear and participate in, what is the state of the Union? I think we can all agree that we are at some very challenging times. Nate's going to read a poem by Langston Hughes.
This is Harlem by Langston Hughes.
What happens to a dream deferred?
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a risen in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like a rotten meal? Or crust and a sugar over like a syrup sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode?
I'm going to read two poems of mine. The first one uses some words from Adam Schiff, who spoke day 4 of the January 6th hearings, and two of the lines that he spoke struck me. They were in relation to a lie that was told about Ruby Freeman, you might remember, but they apply to our country in general, and that's what I used them for. The poem is called Hook, Line, and Sinker. We have been blessed beyond measure to live in the world's greatest democracy. This is the narrative, the truth we hold. And we string this truth along with a lie as big and heavy as a mountain. At the hearings, day 4, Mr. Schiff's words resonate. The primal narrative, Adam on the eve of justice. We have been blessed beyond measure to live in the world's greatest democracy. Who among us is strong enough to resist the law? And what scale is strong enough to balance this ordained truth indefinitely with a lie as big and heavy as a mountain? I am not on trial, you are not on trial, yet we reel as we are reeled in, succored along with the representative. We have been blessed beyond measure to live in the world's greatest democracy. We can imagine ourselves righteous, able, if we only drink in this cocktail to chase down the pill, a lie as big and heavy as a mountain. There are two Americas, both are on trial. If challenges be opportunities to craft a new narrative conceived in liberty, then we have been blessed beyond measure to live in the world's greatest democracy and a lie as big and heavy as a mountain. I think I'm going to read all three. So the next one is something that I wrote on the 4th of July, for the 4th of July, but there was a prompt, and the prompt was from a message found in a bottle by Edgar Allan Poe. So the prompt line was, "Of my country and my family I have little to say," and the last two words are also Edgar Allan Poe. Of my country and of my family I have little to say. The chattering bird now stilled inside my breast, all airs stilled as we strain to catch our breath amid the foul remains now evident beneath the glaring sun shone on the human crest. Of lofty pompous echoes, righteous calls of quip and quill, our song is silenced, body taxidermied, dressed an animated corpse to prance atop the pony of its hideous success. The steed parades now toward a pyre, its liberty a jest. America, my people, hemmed inside the continent, the silent voice of freedom dares to stir inside a vintage chest, where dreams are harbored yet and still, soliloquy amidst the ruins God and history may put to rest. For even as we hope to see some phoenix rise again in stark tanned truth, we know that we are of our own hand going down. The next one is called Right Now. And it speaks to the moment when the past and the present and the future come together. Right now, Reconstruction come crack against this shore. While we slumber and turn, the ocean awaits our move. Men wave the Southern Cross, burning their rage, storming the Capitol. Right now, Reconstruction come crack against this shore. Raiders plunder the earth for gold, black gold. Daughters taken, the mother torn apart, and the ocean awaits our move. Black men hang in the balance, lynched under limbs and knees and locked away. Brown bodies snatched and caged. Right now, Reconstruction come crack against this shore. A pox unleashed, cannons deployed, treaties broken, stolen waters dammed. Right now, and the ocean awaits our move. The tide comes rolling on a thunderous cloud of buffalo hooves. With a deafening pitch, it blackens the sky on pigeon wings, coming for our clear-cut hearts, tearing at our tongues. Right now, Reconstruction come crack against this shore. The ocean awaits our move.
July 5th, 1852, Corinthian Hall. We move forward to Rochester, summer heat, July 5th, 1852. The celebration of American independence had taken place the day before. Flags still hung in the windows. Patriotic songs still echoed through the streets. Inside Corinthian Hall, nearly 600 people gathered, a mixed crowd, abolitionists, citizens, skeptics, supporters, men in formal coats despite the heat, women fanning themselves with programs, expectation humming through the room. Frederick Douglass rose to speak. He was already one of the most powerful orators in America, and may I add, the number one most photographed person of the 19th century. More on that in a moment. A formerly enslaved man addressing a nation that still held millions in bondage. Outside, America celebrated liberty. Inside, Douglass prepared to ask a devastating question: what does freedom mean to those who are not free? The room grew still. And what followed was not merely a speech, It was an act of moral reckoning. Now, I would like to have my Frederick Douglass crowd go that way. Now, I've already given them their directive. I told them that they're going to pretend, each in turn, as they get up on this microphone, to pretend to be, for that short section, Frederick Douglass. They're going to get up there and deliver this speech, and they're going to be keeping the ball up. But your job, you guys are 600 people squeezed in the Corinthian Hall. You are all these things. Some of you are abolitionists. Some of you don't believe. Some of you came to see, can this Negro speak that well? So whatever it is, we're all here coming together to experience this as an audience. Put yourself in this place. It's hot. It's crowded. Been waiting a while. But you're interested to hear what's going on. And you know the climate outside. You know that some people can't go to certain places to eat, and you can't go to certain parts of town. There have been things. And you also know that these two women, Julie and Eliza, two white women that came from Britain, living with Douglass, walking arm in arm with him in the street. The scandal that's going on. That's what the background is. So we got our Frederick Douglass lined up, right? Okay, you guys know what you're gonna do next when you're done, right? Okay. I'm going to set this up. Today we return to that moment. Not to imitate Frederick Douglass, because no single voice can contain what he carried. Instead, we read together, because the speech was never meant for silence. It was meant to be heard, argued with, and felt. Each voice added today reminds us that democracy is not performed by spectators. It is spoken into existence by communities willing to confront truth. Through Sankofa, we can reach back and carry forward the courage to ask difficult questions in our own time. So now, we gather our voices and return to Corinthian Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Frederick Douglass!
Mr. President, friends, and fellow citizens, the task before me is one that requires much previous thought and study for its proper performance. I do not remember ever to have appeared as a speaker before any assembly more shrinkingly, nor with greater distrust of my ability than I do this day. The papers and placards say that I am to deliver a 4th of July oration. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, the distance between this platform and the slave plantation from which I escaped is considerable, and the difficulties to be overcome is getting from the latter to the former are by no means slight. That I am here today is to me a matter of astonishment as well as of gratitude.
This, for the purpose of this celebration, is the 4th of July. It is the birthday of your national independence and of your political freedom. This, to you, is what the Passover was to the emancipated people of God. It carries your minds back to the day and to the act of your great deliverance. This celebration also marks the beginning of another year of your national life. It reminds you that the Republic of America is now 76 years old. I am glad, fellow citizens, that your nation is so young. You are, even now, only in the beginning of your national career, still lingering in a period of childhood. I repeat, I am glad this is so. There is hope in the thought, and hope is much needed under the dark clouds which lower above the horizon.
Fellow citizens, 76 years ago, the people of this country were British subjects. the style and title of your sovereign people, in which you now glory, was not then born. You were under the British crown. Your fathers esteemed the English government as the home government, England as the fatherland, although a considerable distance from your house, imposed, in the exercise of its parental prerogatives, upon its colonial children, such restraints, burdens, and limitations as, in its mature judgment, it deemed wise, right, and proper.
But your fathers, who had not adopted the idea of the infallibility of government and the absolute character of its acts, presumed to differ from the home government in respect to the wisdom and the justice of some of those burdens and restraints. They went so far as to pronounce the measures of government unjust, unreasonable, and oppressive, and altogether such as ought not to be quietly submitted to. I scarcely need to say, fellow citizens, that my opinion of those measures fully accords with that of your fathers. Feeling themselves harshly and unjustly treated by the home government, your fathers, like men of honesty and men of spirit, earnestly sought redress. They petitioned and remonstrated. They did so in decorous, respectful, and loyal manner. This, however, did not answer the purpose. They saw themselves treated with sovereign indifference, coldness, and scorn. Yet they persevered.
Oppression makes a wise man mad. Your fathers became restive under this treatment. They felt themselves the victims of grievous wrongs, wholly incurable in their colonial capacity. With brave men, there is always a remedy for oppression. Just here, the idea of a total separation of the colonies from the crown was born. It was a startling idea, much more so than we, at this distance of time, regarded. The timid and the prudent of that day were, of course, shocked and alarmed by it. Their opposition to the then dangerous thought was earnest and powerful, but amid all their terror and affrighted vociferations against it, the alarming and revolutionary idea moved on, and the country with it.
On the 2nd of July, 1776, the Old Continental Congress, to the dismay of the lovers of ease and the worshippers of property, clothed that dreadful idea with all the authority of national sanction. They did so in the form of a resolution. We seldom hit upon resolutions drawn up in our day whose transparency is all at equal it, resolved that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British crown.
Citizens, your fathers made good that resolution. They succeeded. And today, you reap the fruits of their success. The freedom gained is yours, and you therefore may properly celebrate this anniversary. The 4th of July is the first great fact in your nation's history, the very ring bolt in the cabin of your yet undeveloped destiny.
Pride and patriotism, not less than gratitude, prompts you to celebrate the whole in perpetual remembrance. I have said that the Declaration of Independence is the rainbow to change you to your nation's destiny. So, indeed, I regard the principles contained in that instrument are saving principles. Stand by those principles. Be true to them on all occasions, in all places, against all foes, and whatever the cost.
Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes. And for the good they did and the principles that they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory.
They loved their country better than their own private interests, and all will concede that it is a rare virtue that ought to command respect. He who will intelligently lay down his life for his country is a man whom it is not in human nature to despise. Your fathers staked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the cause of their country. In their admiration of liberty, they lost sight of all other interests.
They were peacemen, but they preferred revolution to peaceful submission to bondage. They were quiet men, but they did not shrink from agitating against oppression. They showed forbearance, but they knew its limits. They believed in order, but not in the order of tyranny. With them, nothing was settled that was not right. With them, justice, liberty, and humanity were final, not slavery and oppression. You may well cherish the memory of such men. They were great in their day and generation. Their solid manhood stands out the more as we contrast it with these degenerate times.
How circumspect, exact, and proportionate were all their movements. How unlike the politicians of an hour. Their statesmanship looked beyond the passing moment and stretched away in strength to the distant future. Mark them, fully appreciating the hardship to be encountered, firmly believing in the right of their cause, wisely measuring the terrible odds against them. Your fathers, the fathers of this republic, laid the cornerstone of the national superstructure, which has risen and still rises in grandeur around you.
Of this fundamental work, this day is the anniversary. Our eyes are met with demonstrations of joyous enthusiasm. The causes which led to the separation of the colonies from the British Crown have never lacked for a tongue. They have been taught in your common schools, narrated at your firesides, unfolded from your pulpits, and thundered from your legislative halls, and are as familiar to you as household words. They form the staple of your national poetry and eloquence. I leave, therefore, the great deeds of your fathers to others.
My business, if I have any here today, is with the present. The accepted time with God and his cause is the ever-living now. We have to do with the past only as we can make it useful to the present and to the future. Now is the time, the important time. Your fathers have lived, died, and done their work, and have done much of it well. You live and must die, and you must do your work. You have no right to enjoy a child's share in the labor of your fathers unless your children are to be blessed by your labors. You have no right to wear out and waste the hard-earned fame of your fathers to cover your indolence. Yes.
Fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in the Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence from us?
Would to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative action could be truthfully returned to these questions. That would make my task be light and my burdens easy and delightful. But such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of disparity between us. I'm not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us.
The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, but not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today?
Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions, whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilee shouts that reach them. To forget them, to pass lightly over their wrongs, and to chime in with the popular theme would be treason most scandalous and shocking, and would make me a reproach before God and the world.
My subject then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day from the slave's point of view. Standing here, identified with American bondmen, making his wrongs mine, I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul that the character and conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present, the conduct of the nation seems equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future.
Standing with God and the crushed and bleeding slave on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity, which is outraged, in the name of liberty, which is fettered, in the name of the Constitution, the Bible, which are disregarded and trampled upon, dare I call, question, and denounce with all the emphasis I can command everything that serves to perpetuate slavery, the great sin and shame of America. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse.
Yes.
I will use this severest language I can command. And yet, not one word shall escape me that any man whose judgment is not blinded by prejudice, whose his heart is not a slaveholder, shall not confess to be right and just.
I fancy to hear someone in my audience say, it is just in this circumstance that you and your brother abolitionists failed to make a favorable impression on the public mind. Would you argue more and denounce less? Would you persuade more and rebuke less? Your cause would be much more likely to succeed. But I submit, where all is plain, there is nothing to be argued. What point in the anti-slavery creed would you have me argue? On what branch of the subject do the people of this country need light?
Must I undertake to prove that the slave is a man? The slaveholders themselves acknowledge it in the enactment of laws for their government. They acknowledge it when they punish disobedience on the part of the slave. There are 72 crimes in the state of Virginia, which, if committed by a black man, subject him to the punishment of death, while only 2 of the same crimes will subject a white man to the like punishment. What is this but the acknowledgement that the slave is a moral, intellectual, and responsible being?
Southern statute books are covered with enactments forbidding under severe fines and penalties the teaching of the slave just to read or write. When you can point to any such laws in reference to the beasts of the field, then I may consent to argue the manhood of the slave. When the dogs in the streets, when the fowls of the air, when the cattle's on your hills, when the fish of the sea, and the reptiles that crawl shall be unable to distinguish the slave from a brute, then will I argue with you that the slave is a man.
Is it not astonishing that while we are plowing, planting, and reaping, using all kinds of mechanical tools, erecting houses, constructing bridges, building ships, working in metals of brass, iron, copper, silver, and gold, that while we are reading, writing, and ciphering, acting as clerks, merchants, and secretaries, having among us lawyers, doctors, ministers, poets, authors, editors, orators, and teachers, that while we are engaged in all manner of enterprises common to other men, digging gold in California, capturing the whale in the Pacific, feeding sheep and cattle on the hillside, living, moving, acting, thinking, planning, living in families as husbands, wives, and children, and above all, confessing and worshiping the Christian's God, and looking hopefully for life and immortality beyond the grave, we are called upon to prove that we are men.
Would you have me argue that man is entitled to liberty? That he is the rightful owner of his own body? You have already declared it. Must I argue the wrongfulness of slavery? Is it to be settled by the rules of logic and argumentation as a matter of beset with great difficulty, involving a doubtful application of the principle of justice, hard to be understood? How should I look today in the presence of Americans to show that men have a natural right to freedom? To do so would be to make myself ridiculous and to offer an insult to your understanding. There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven that does not know that slavery is wrong for him.
What, am I to argue that it is wrong to make men brutes, to rob them of their liberty, to work them without wages, to keep them ignorant of their relations to their fellow men, to beat them with sticks, to flay their flesh with a lash, to load their limbs with irons, to hunt them with dogs, to sell them at auction, to sunder their families, and knock out their teeth, to burn their flesh, to starve them into obedience and submission to their masters? Must I argue that a system thus marked with blood and stained with pollution is wrong? No, I will not. I have better employments for my time and strength than such arguments would employ.
What then remains to be argued? Is it that slavery is not divine? That God did not establish it? That our doctors of divinity are mistaken? There is blasphemy in the thought. That which is inhuman cannot be divine. Who can reason such a proposition? I cannot. The time for such argument is past.
At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument is needed. Oh, had I the ability, and could I reach the nation's ear, I would today pour a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it's not light that is needed, but fire. It's not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed. And its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer. a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham, your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages.
There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.
Take the American slave trade, which we're told by the papers is especially prosperous just now, as the price of men was never higher, and which is carried on in all the large towns and cities in one half of this Confederacy. This trade is one of the peculiarities of American institutions. In several states, this trade is a chief source of wealth. It is called the internal slave trade, in order to divert from it the horror with which the foreign slave trade is contemplated.
The foreign slave trade has long been, since denounced by this government, as piracy, as excusable traffic. To arrest it, this nation keeps a squadron at immense cost on the coast of Africa. Everywhere in this country, it's safe to speak out of this foreign slave trade, as most inhuman traffic opposed alike to the laws of God and of man. It is, however, a notable fact that while so much extortion is poured out by Americans upon those engaged in foreign slave trade, the men engaged in the slave trade between the states pass without condemnation, and their business is deemed honorable.
Shame. Behold the practical operation of this internal slave trade, the American slave trade, sustained by American politics and American religion. Here you will see men and women reared like swine for the market. You know what a swine drover is? I will show you a man drover. They inhabit all our southern states. They permeate the country and crowd the highways of the nation with droves of human stock. You will see one of these flesh drovers armed with pistol, whip, and bowie knife, driving a company of 100 men, women, and children from the Potomac to the slave market at New Orleans. These wretched people are to be sold singly or in lots to suit purchasers. They are food for the cotton field and the deadly sugar mill.
Mark the sad procession as it moves warily along, and the inhuman wretch who drives them. Hear his savage yells and his blood-chilling oaths as he hurries on his affrighted captives. There, see the old man with locks thinned and gray. Cast one glance, if you please, upon that young mother whose shoulders are bare to the scorching sun, her briny tears falling on the brow of the babe in her arms. See, too, that girl of 13, weeping, yes, weeping, as she thinks of the mother from whom she has been torn. The drove moves tardily. Heat and sorrow have nearly consumed their strength. Suddenly you hear a quick snap, like the discharge of a rifle. The fetters clank, and the chain rattles simultaneously. Your ears are saluted with a scream that seems to have torn its way to the center of your soul. The crack you heard was the sound of the slave whip. The scream you heard was from the woman you saw with the babe. Her speed had faltered under the weight of her child and her chains. That gnash on her shoulder tells her to move on.
Follow this drove to New Orleans. Attend the auction. See men examined like horses. See the women rudely and brutally exposed to the shocking gaze of American slave buyers. This drove, sold, and separated forever. And never forget the deep, sad sobs that arose from that scattered multitude. Tell me, citizens, where under the sun can you witness a spectacle more fiendish and shocking? Yet this is but a glance at the American slave trade as it exists at this moment in the ruling part of the United States.
I was born amid such sights and scenes. To me, the American slave trade is a terrible reality. The fleshmongers gather up their victims by dozens and drive them chained to the General Depot at Baltimore. When a sufficient number has been collected here, a ship is chartered for the purpose of conveying the forlorn crew to Mobile or to New Orleans. From the slave prison to the ship, they are usually driven in the darkness of night. In the deep, still darkness of midnight, I have been often aroused by the dead, heavy footsteps and the piteous cries of the chained gangs that passed our door.
Fellow citizens, this murderous traffic is today in active operation in this boasted republic. In the solitude of my spirit, I see clouds of dust raised on the highways of the South. I see the bleeding footsteps. I hear the doleful wail of fettered humanity on the way to the slave market, where the victims are to be sold like horses, sheep, and swine, knocked off to the highest bidder. There I see the tenderest ties ruthlessly broken to gratify the lust, caprice, and rapacity of the buyers and sellers of men, and my soul sickens at the sight.
But a still more inhuman, disgraceful, and scandalous state of things remains to be presented. By an act of Congress, not yet 2 years old, slavery has been nationalized in its most horrible and revolting form. Mason and Dixon's line has been obliterated. New York has become as Virginia, and the power to hold, hunt, and sell men, women, and children as slaves remains no longer a mere state institution, but is now an institution of the whole United States.
The power is coextensive with the Star-Spangled Banner and American Christianity. Where these go, may also go the merciless slave hunter. Where these are, man is not sacred. He is a bird for the sportsman's gun. By that most foul and fiendish of all human decrees, the liberty and person of every man are put in peril. Your broad republican domain is hunting ground for men.
Your lawmakers have commanded all good citizens to engage in this hellish sport. Your president, your secretary of state enforce as a duty you owe to your free and glorious country and to your God that you do this accursed thing. Not fewer than 40 Americans have within the past 2 years been hunted down and without a moment's warning hurried away in chains and consigned to slavery and excruciating torture. Some of these have had wives and children dependent on them for bread, but of this, no account has been made. The right of the hunter to his prey stands superior to the right of marriage and to all rights in this republic, the rights of God included.
For black men, there is neither law nor justice, humanity nor religion. The fugitive slave law makes mercy to them a crime and bribes the judge who tries them. An American judge gets $10 for every victim he consigns to slavery, and $5 when he fails to do so. The oath of any two villains is sufficient, under this hell-black enactment, to send the most pious and exemplary black man into the remorseless jaws of slavery. His own testimony is nothing. He can bring no witnesses for himself. The minister of American justice is bound by the law to hear but one side, and that side is the side of the oppressor.
Let this damning fact be perpetually told. Let it be thundered around the world that in tyrant-killing, king-hating, people-loving, democratic, Christian America, the seats of justice are filled with judges who hold their offices under an open and palpable bribe, are bound in deciding in the case of a man's liberty to hear only his accusers.
In glaring violation of justice, in shameless disregard of the forms of administering law, in cunning arrangement to entrap the defenseless, and in diabolical intent, this fugitive slave law stands alone in the annals of tyrannical legislation.
Americans, your Republican politics, not less than your Republican religion, are flagrantly inconsistent. You boast of your love of liberty, your superior civilization, and your pure Christianity, while the whole political power of this nation is solemnly pledged to support and perpetuate the enslavement of 3 million of your countrymen. You whore your madness at proud heads of tyrants of Russia and Austria, and you pride yourself on your democratic institutions, while you yourselves consent to be their mere tools and bodyguards of tyrants in Virginia and the Carolinas.
You invite to your shores fugitives of oppression from abroad. Honor them with banquets, greet them with ovations, cheer them, toast them, salute them, protect them, and pour out your money to them like water. But the fugitives from your own land, you advertise, hunt, arrest, shoot, and kill. You glory in your refinement and your universal education, yet you maintain a system of barbarous and dreadful as ever stained the character of a nation, a system, begun in avarice, supported in pride, and perpetuated in cruelty.
You shed tears over fallen Hungary and make the sad story of her wrongs the theme of your poets, statesmen, and orators, till your gallant sons are ready to fly to arms to vindicate her cause against the oppressor. But in regard to the 10,000 wrongs of the American slave, you would enforce the strictest silence and would hail him as an enemy of the nation who dares to make those wrongs the subject of public discourse. You are all on fire at the mention of liberty for France or for Ireland, but are as cold as an iceberg at the thought of liberty for the enslaved of America.
Right.
You discourse eloquently on the dignity of labor, yet you sustain a system which in its very essence casts a stigma upon labor. You can bare your bosom to the storm of British artillery to throw off a 3-penny tax on tea, and yet wring the last hard-earned farthing from the grasp of the black laborers of your country. You profess to believe that of one blood God made all nations of men to dwell on the face of all the earth, and have commanded all men everywhere to love one another.
Yes.
Yet you notoriously hate and glory in your hatred all men whose skins are not colored like your own.
You declare before the world and are understood by the world to declare that you hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yet, you hold securely in a bondage which, according to your own Thomas Jefferson, is worse than ages of that which your fathers rose in rebellion to oppose, a seventh part of the inhabitants of your country.
Fellow citizens, I will not enlarge further on your national inconsistencies. The existence of slavery in this country brands you Republican. Your republicanism is a sham, your humanity is a base pretense, and your Christianity is a lie.
Yes.
It destroys your moral power abroad, it corrupts your politicians at home, it saps the foundation of religion, it makes your name a hissing and a byword to a mockingbird.
It is the antagonistic force in your government, the only thing that seriously disturbs and endangers your union. It fetters your progress. It is the enemy of improvement, the deadly foe of education. It fosters pride. It breeds innocence. It promotes vice. It shelters crime. It is a curse to the earth that supports it. And yet you cling to it as if it were the sheet anchor to all your hopes. Be warned. A horrible reptile is coiled up in your nation's bosom. The venomous creature is nursing at the tender breast of your youthful republic. For the love of God, tear away and fling from you the hideous monster. And let the weight of 20 millions crush and destroy it forever.
But it is answered in reply to all this that precisely what I have now denounced is, in fact, guaranteed and sanctioned by the Constitution of the United States. That the right to hold and to hunt slaves is a part of that Constitution, framed by the illustrious fathers of this republic. Then I dare to affirm, notwithstanding all that I have said before you, your fathers, instead of being honest men, I have before declared them to be, were the veriest impostors that ever practiced on mankind. This is the inevitable conclusion, and from it there is no escape. But I differ from those who charge this baseness on the framers of the Constitution of the United States. It is a slander upon their memory, at least, so I believe, and others have, as I think, fully and clearly vindicated the Constitution from any design to support slavery for an hour.
Allow me to say in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope, while drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence, the great principles it contains, and the genius of American institutions. My spirit is cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. Nations do not stand in the same relation to each other that they did ages ago. No nation can now shut itself up from the surrounding world and trot around in the same old path of its fathers without interference.
The time was when such could be done. But a change has now come over the affairs of mankind. Walled cities and empires have become unfashionable. The arm of commerce has borne away the gates of the strong city. Intelligence is penetrating the darkest corners of the globe. Wind, steam, and lightning are its chartered agents. Oceans no longer divide, but link nations together. From Boston to London is now a holiday excursion. Space is comparatively annihilated. Thoughts expressed on one side of the Atlantic are distinctly heard on the other. In the fervent aspirations of William Lloyd Garrison, I say, and let every heart join in saying it. All God speed the day when human blood shall cease to flow, and every clime be understood the claims of human brotherhood, and each return for evil good, not blow for blow. That day will come, all feuds to end, and change into a faithful friend, each fall. Thank you very much. Give it up for our readers, please. Give it up for all the wonderful, and thank you all for engaging in this crazy experience and experiment. We're going to take a 15-minute break, but I would like to encourage you to do, as well as going to use the restroom and taking a breather. There's a quiet room back there I didn't mention. I'm very sorry. There is a room that you can go and kind of breathe in private a little bit. But also, we encourage you, the last thing that he talked about was hope. So on that tree over there, if you get a chance while having a snack and relaxing the next 15 minutes, put something on one of those leaves. What gives you hope? What gives you strength? Okay? Thank you much. We'll take a 15-minute break right now, guys. I do have a Frederick Douglass response piece. But, you know, as an MC, sometimes I think you get tired of hearing me. So, but I'm usually my worst advertiser, so I won't be right now. What time?
7
p.m. Where? Here. Bring a friend, bring 5 friends. Okay. This is a poem that was commissioned by the city of Providence, and I wrote it. And what to me is the 4th of July? Is it a day in which I should truly take pride? Is it a moment of reverence that ought to be set aside to reflect on the great republic we have so stratified? Are we to say, with this blessed day, that we are ultimately satisfied with the constitutions and the legislations that have heretofore been ratified? Are we all in agreement, then, that these well-scripted pronouncements that liberty is a human right and it shall not be denied have thus far been successfully applied? What to me is the 4th of July? How can I, in good conscience, say, this day is for me? When I have ears to hear and eyes that still see, how can I, in all fairness, celebrate this day knowing that even at this late date your unjust hate is still growing? You say it is an evident truth that all men are born free, and you pontificate so eloquently on your high-minded thoughts of liberty. You put your pen to pious poetry, flowering your filth with filigree, but your preaching lacks the practice, and your words ring hollow and thin. You keep the lion's share of freedom and dole the rest out on a whim. You do not hear our voices, our cries for freedom, and whimper or we scream. You offer whites the American life, but for blacks dangle the American dream. While you sleep peacefully, unwoke, free from the horror and the nightmares and the hell, your back does not burn hot with the thoughts of the 50 shots that got Sean Bell. What act on earth could be more savage and more barbary than the willful stalking and cold-blooded killing of the young Ahmaud Arbery? How can I not shake and quiver when I think of Emmett Till in Money, Mississippi? Whistling and Dixie can still get you killed. Your neck fastened with wires to an old cotton gin, and your body dumped in a river, a grim icon of sin. What to me is the 4th of July? Yes. What to me is this beastly day, this queasy and most uneasy day, in this land of the thieves, in the home of the knaves, where no refuge could save the hireling and the slave from the terror of flight and the gloom of the grave. What shall I further contain the microaggressions and the raids that I daily force to lay dormant, and today suffer the bitter blade of your most cruel mockery and torment? What to me is the 4th of July? How can I best engage? Shall I, each time we celebrate, celebrate, be obliged to eat a page from the myriad texts that decry the opposite of your brazen charade and fanfare? What should I care for bombs bursting in air when I'm reminded of Tulsa, bombs bursting in our ears? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what terror was wrought under cover of night, whose broad stripes we bear across our bare backs, with liberty for some and injustice for all blacks and browns and those otherwise found unworthy? What to me is the 4th of July? Isn't it day for humbling my honest umbrage to 250 years after suffering, being bought and sold upon the auction block, getting our heads busted by a flag like a whip with our red blood encrusted? You still seek to deny my unalienable rights and insist on restricting my suffrage? What to me? Yes, what to me is this 4th of July, I suppose. Beneath all the unfinished business and our epidemic, rancid racism, despite the systems that render us perpetual victims, I still have hope that you might one day see your way to finally fix things. And now we'll have Miss Dina Gross lead us through our exit song.
I will. I'm going to just read a couple of things on the wall.
Things that give us hope and strength.
Yes, that we've come here together today. The solidarity that Minneapolis has modeled for us.
Yes.
Whenever I hear people express outrage by injustice and move toward action in response. And you're going to put, if you wanted to put one up and you didn't yet, please do. And before you leave, you can take one and take it home with you. So that was the plan for that. And this is an inspirational song which many of you will know because people are singing it all over now, but it became sort of an anthem in Minneapolis. So, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn.
Thank you guys very, very much for being here. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Hopefully some of you guys come back 7 o'clock.